would love to find some tracks for those little cubs in shadow, but alas, we've been a bit sidetracked by a little baby of a different kind. And you can see the little zebra baby running down the airstrip here. Very, very cute. It's full of energy. Now, there's also one that's busy rolling on its back there. So it looks like Mom was having a good roll. So, oh, the little one is having a great game. Look at that. So they often are like this when there's been a bit of cool weather. They have so much energy because it's not as hot, and so you often find them running around and darting off and then running back to Mom. So lots and lots of playful energy in the mornings with little baby zebras. And this is quite a nice group of zebra. I haven't seen too many recently. They've been a bit few and far between. Oh, more zebras come running down. Oopsie, got to be a bit careful on the tar. The tar gets a little bit slippery, so that's why there was brakes applied quite quickly there. And you can see they were trying not to slip as they came over. So funny enough, that's why predators will often hunt around airstrips, is that they know full well that they can chase these hoofed animals across this tar, and the tar becomes very slippery, particularly if there's been a bit of rain, and they use it to their advantage, particularly with things like giraffe. They'll try and hunt giraffe on tarred areas, and you see it a lot in the Kruger National Park where we've got tarred roads. The lions will chase the giraffe over, and the giraffe then slips, and you often find the lions on these giraffe kills on the road itself. So it's because of the slipperiness of the surface. And look at this little one, is loving life. Amazing. So you can see there's lots of interaction as well. Zebras are very social animals. They're very tight-knit units. You see the little one having a bit of a suckle there. Now that little one's getting a bit big to be suckling. I'm sure fairly shortly Mom is going to start denying it milk and keeping it away from it. That one should be almost weaned by now. They normally are weaned at about 6 to 8 months. They are really starting to go off the milk, and that one is probably about that age, maybe a little bit older, closer to a year. So you can hear the lapwings are not very happy with all the commotion between the zebras and the impalas. They are not impressed that there's all this traffic this morning. You'll find that these zebras are also here because you can see on the other side of that runway where they're all standing is the grass is really short. So because the planes that land here, they have to keep the grass short on the sides in case the plane goes off the runway, and it can then at least negotiate the area. And that short grass is absolutely perfect for zebras. They love short grass like this. It's also much more open, so they can see any sign of a predator should there be a predator around. So that's why they're here. They've come in and they've made use of man's doing to have a better environment than what is around them at the moment. This is, like I say, a really nice group of them. I haven't seen such a large group of zebra in quite a while, so nice to see them. And there will be one dominant male in that group, and the rest of that is all his females. So that's his harem of females, and he is going to be very, very protective of that. If another male comes into this area, there'll be full-out warfare for those females. He won't tolerate another male at all, and that's because he knows in this particular section that we're in, there's not that many females around. So if another male comes and steals his females, he's going to have a tough time to find his own females. So you'll find that they bond really tightly, and he'll try and keep other males away as much as possible. I'm going to try and reposition quickly and just go down the runway a little bit. See if we can't just get ahead of the zebras as they're coming down. It's a beautiful scene with the low cloud cover that we've got. There's a bit of blue sky starting to come out, and then all of these zebras and impalas. Now, we were talking about symbiotic relationships with the hyena and the warthogs and dwarf mongoose, or banded mongoose, sorry. Now, I'm trying to see if we can show you another symbiotic relationship, which would have been the oxpeckers on these animals. I actually don't see any, which is quite strange. You would think in this sort of congregation of animals there would be at least one oxpecker, but there we go. On the impalas there's some oxpeckers. So these birds are just attaching themselves to these animals to clean them and get rid of all the ticks and parasites that are on them. And they'll also utilize these animals for nesting material. So what you'll find is that these oxpeckers go onto impalas and zebras and the likes, and they'll actually end up harvesting some of the fur that they use to line their nests. So, I've got two youngsters busy wrestling on the backside here as well. So you can see when they actually fight, now this is just play fighting, but when they fight for real, they will use these very sharp teeth to bite at each other's flanks and underside and around the genital area. And so you saw there just now that the zebra was sitting to try and protect that area. So he's trying, see, he can puts his bum down so that the other male can't bite at his genitals and cause any harm to them. And the interesting thing with male zebras is that they have erupted canines. So much like a cat, they have a canine that they basically use to bite one another and can do serious damage. I've seen a lot of zebras where there's, you can hear that one obviously hurt, made a little alarm call. I've seen zebras with these big gashes, and everybody always goes lions, and it's actually other males. So Cindy, you would like to know whether zebra stripes are different on each animal, and yes, they are. They're exactly like us with our fingerprints. Each zebra will have a different pattern, and that will be unique to it, and it's how they actually get their young ones to know which one is mom. So when they have their baby, they'll separate from the herd and the harem, and they'll keep that baby very close to them and keep moving it so that that baby can't see any others, and that fingerprint or unique pattern will imprint onto that little baby, and it then knows where to go for milk when they go back into the herd structure. So if you look at all of these zebras, you can actually see there's a difference in their patterning as you go. Now, if you look at that zebra that's walking, you can see he's got a bit of a gash on his front leg there. So that could be from previous altercations that he's had, where he's been bitten by another zebra, and like I say, they can do quite a bit of damage. And it also shows you that the skin is black. Alright, so the white that you see is just fur, and the actual color of the skin is black itself. But they are the most beautiful animals. And what a sighting it's been. They've been very full of it this morning. Like I say, often zebra are fairly relaxed and they just sit and graze and not too much goes on. But this morning we've had males play fighting and little babies running. It's been very spectacular. So, Jamos, you want to know whether we have people that come and actually shoo the animals off the airstrip, or if they instinctively know just to move. Well, it's a bit of both. So should a plane arrive here and nobody's actually been here, then the noise of that engine will often be enough to get things like zebra and impalas off the runway. But generally what happens is if there are guests that are coming in, the ranger that is picking up those guests will come and check the runway first before the plane comes, and if there is anything, he'll gently try and just shoo them off the runway to try and get that path clear. Now, it's sometimes easier said than done. On this particular runway, I had an incident with a buffalo where it took me about half an hour to get this buffalo off, and the pilot that was in the plane that was trying to land was thoroughly unimpressed with me because I spent half an hour keeping him up in the air, and he was saying to me that it's very expensive to have the plane up and to keep doing these flybys, but the buffalo just wouldn't move. No matter what I did, it would not go anywhere, and eventually got quite grumpy and even came at the vehicle, so I had to kind of make haste and get out of there. So sometimes not too easy. And then I've also had a Chitwa airstrip. I had lions that killed a giraffe on the airstrip itself, so we had to end up chasing the lions and then chasing again, pulling the giraffe off the runway. It was quite a fiasco. Alright, so while we admire our zebras and see if they get up to any more mischief, we're going to go back to Jamie and see what she's up to.
Funnily enough, the last time I flew into Hoedspruit, the plane actually had to circle round twice. There was some very stubborn giraffe standing on the runway. But I have a really exciting first, or at least first for me this year, in the form of a really truly adorable little antelope at the back of Chitwa Dam. Now just have a look here. Where's it gone, Brian? No, has it vanished? No, there it is. Hello, little one. There we go. It seems as though from zebra foals to waterbuck calves, it is the day of the baby, and that is a very young baby. It is a tiny, completely different color to mom. What's wrong? Is that a bit scary? Look at it. This is the first baby waterbuck I've seen this year. It's ridiculous. Obviously, the drought hit them quite hard, I think. Not many pregnancies were successful. Or perhaps just late. What's wrong, little one? This cannot be more than a few days old, surely. It even still looks a bit wobbly. And I think it's still a little bit damp, but I think that's from walking through water. Oh, baby, what's wrong? Where's your mum? Go find your mum. You are so tiny to be wandering about all on your own. Look at it. Oh! Did you get confused and follow the wrong waterbuck? Oh, shame, look, it's lost. Oh, it's alright, Mommy's coming back for you. It's okay. Here comes Mom now. There you go. No, you silly twit. Look behind you. She's behind you. That's got to be Mom, surely. Coming back to collect the little one. Here you go. Crisis averted. Look at that instinct already. Ears flickering backwards and forwards, listening, looking, not blindly walking somewhere, but constantly checking, although I suppose that makes sense. The young animals that don't have that instinct are not going to survive very long out here. That's so sweet. This is lovely. A really lovely first waterbuck calf sighting. There's pretty Mom on the right. Careful, little one. Don't stray too close to the water. There are lots of big crocodiles in this dam, and you would be the perfect breakfast for them. Look at those massive ears. Good question, Roxy. You want to know why the babies are brownish when the mothers are grey? It happens with quite a few antelope. Wildebeest, quite a few of the larger antelope species as well, with things like Gemsbok, roan. Their offspring are a slightly different colour. The reason behind it is actually the fact that the mothers generally, okay, not wildebeest calves, that's an exception, but the mothers, especially waterbuck and roan, sable, Gemsbok, actually leave their calves for extended periods of time. So she's brought this little one out, but what she's going to do now is take it into a hiding place and leave it. So the lighter, the sort of that brownish colour, is a lot more camouflage than the grey colour. As to why that has to change when they get older, I'm not too sure. I'm not quite sure why it would be more of an advantage, unless perhaps it just is a natural thing that happens as their fur starts to darken with all of the oils on it. But I'm not sure why, if brown is a better camouflage colour than grey, they then go grey. So that's a good question. But the reason that the calves are brown is for camouflage. And there we go, one baby down. Then there was a baby hippo over there. It is now 2 dots sticking up above the water. There they are. Michael, you want to know what the gestation period is of a waterbuck? I think it's 7 months. Let's just double check that. That was a lovely sound. That was a really lovely sound. Sorry, Michael, I'm just double checking in one of my books. Ooh. Yeah, well, you try and remember every gestation period, Mr. Hippo. Don't laugh at me. Sorry, it's 9 months, Michael. It's 9 months, not 7. And generally, the antelope have relatively short gestation periods. You know which animal has a bizarrely short gestation period is a hippopotamus. Considering they produce a calf that is around 40 or so kilograms, a 90-pound baby, same as a rhino. A rhino takes about 1.5 years, give or take. A hippo's gestation period is it's under a year. It's only 9 months. And that I find quite bizarre, the fact that they've got such a difference. You know, elephants are pregnant for 2 years, 22 months, not quite 2 years. And then you've got a hippopotamus who produces such a large baby and such a well-developed baby, and yet in such a short period of time. I wonder why that is. Why is it that they're capable of that? Is it something to do with water, maybe? Buoyancy? Or is it just there's a huge disadvantage to being pregnant for too long? I'm not sure. What are those strange quirks of nature? So the baby hippo, I think you'll all be relieved to hear, is alive and well. He just happens to be in his, or she, or it, happens to be in its usual spot at the back of the dam. It was out earlier, and of course, it vanished as we started talking about it, didn't it, Brian? Yeah. Oh well, Murphy's Law, I suppose. I think I'm going to go and meander along towards Cheetah Plains. While I do, let's find out where James is meandering on foot.
I'm meandering on foot in the block between Treehouse Dam, Philemon's Cutline and Savage's Track. Now, that'll be meaningless if you are a new viewer. We're basically middle of the property, more mid-south if you like, and we're walking around the area with our hyena dens. We didn't go and check the one that we were closest to last because we found tracks, lots of tracks, going through this area here, so that's what we're following at the moment. While we do that, however, here is a very beautiful little coppery beetle. What it is, how it lives, what its biology is, I couldn't begin to tell you. It's about 2 millimeters long. It's a gorgeous metallic copper green color. It doesn't like to be on screen. It keeps turning itself upside down. It obviously likes to live upside down. You got it there, Craig? Mm. That was Craig saying yes, everyone. Beep. That's because the cameramen have to hold their breath while they're trying to film things that we find. And it's just perfectly adapted to living on a grass stalk. He's a rather gorgeous little beetle, I think. And there he goes. I'm going to have to move now because I've got a cramp. We also found a stash of marula nuts. Now, of course, if you find this sitting in a pile like this, nowhere near a marula tree, you might think to yourself, well, goodness gracious, how did they get here? And the answer is that they probably came through the digestive system of an elephant. The elephant's dung has been removed by dung beetles, and we've been left with just the nuts. They've probably also eaten away the rest of the fruit, or that's rotted away, and now we've got the nuts. And Herbie says now, just outside the gate of the reserve, there are a whole lot of people selling these nuts that they've cracked open, taken out and put in bags, and you can buy them on the sides of the road now because we're coming to the end of marula season. Now I'm going on leave after this walk today, and I'm quite sad that when I get back in 2 weeks' time there won't be any marulas left. That wonderful marula season that we've had will be finished, and it's been, I think, for me, the best marula season I've ever experienced. Skip, you're 11 years old and living in Texas, and you want to know why it is that there is a sock on my belt. Well, Skip, I know it seems a bit strange, but if you watch carefully, you see that? There's ash in there. Now that ash is just normal wood ash that we get from the fire, and what it does is tell me which way the wind's blowing. So if I'm approaching an animal, pretend that there, for example, was an elephant where that termite mound is over there. Remember, elephants, if you walk very quietly, you can sneak up on them, but you don't want them to know that you're there. But one of the best ways that they will find out if you're there is if they smell you. So you need to check the direction of the wind. So I would do that sort of thing there. And I would see that the wind is coming from the southeast, sort of towards this way. But there are little bits of wind that are swirling towards him. So I'd be very careful of being in this position there. You can see that blew towards him. I would be very careful of standing and observing an elephant in this position. I'd try and get the other side of the wind. I would probably try and go around that way so that the wind was blowing completely away from us and not towards the animal. But and sometimes you can feel the wind and you don't need an ash bag like this. But there's always a little bit of a breeze blowing, always, at some stage here. And so you need to be able to check exactly which way the wind's blowing, because the animals' noses are very, very sensitive. And so there's just even the slight turn of the wind towards an animal that you're tracking, they'll look up and they'll smell you. They're not like us, you know, they don't have very bad noses like we have. Now these nuts, let's just carry on with my nut discussion. These ones here will eventually probably be collected by squirrels, and then the squirrels will stash them in a hole somewhere, exactly like squirrels the world over do. They'll find a little tree knot somewhere, and they'll keep a pantry of these nuts to help them through the winter, and they've got the perfect teeth, do the squirrels, because they are rodents, to get into these very hard husks. And I must tell you, even for a human being, it's really difficult to get into these nuts. Oh, I'm so excited by this, because it means that finally we seem to have found a member of the genus Panthera.
Well, there's nobody else, which is nice.
I have no idea what happened there. I'm sorry you crash cut from him. I don't even know what he had. Louise, what did he have? Ah! Okay, so it's Tingana. Okay, good. We'll just sort out the communications there with Tristan, and then we'll head back to that wonderful leopard. That's really nice news. So he's on Arathusa, obviously, perhaps looking out for his offspring in the form of Shadow's little cubs. I do hope those cubs are okay. I'll be very sad not to see them again, especially as we saw them the other day for the first time. So we're heading towards a couple of big termite mounds here, where Herbert has various suspicions that they could be being used by hyenas for denning sites. And I don't know that I'm pretty sure that the whole clan has not moved back south here, but I think that there may be one or two subordinate or low-ranking females like Gwen who've moved into the area, perhaps to give birth, because I don't really know why it is that we should only have a few of them around and not the whole bang shoot, unless that was the case. So we're sort of going from termite mound to termite mound like this. And of course, if you find a termite mound like this with a hole in it, that's a good place to start. And if you find a termite mound like this with a bone outside of it, well, that's even a better sign. But this bone has clearly not been eaten by hyenas. It looks to me like the lower leg of something like maybe a young buffalo, actually. Young buffalo or zebra, perhaps. The lower leg. So it would actually be the, I always get confused here. But yeah, the fused metacarpal bones. So basically the hand bones, if you like, of something like a young zebra. It's quite thick or young buffalo, so quite fat. It's not something like an impala. Could even be a warthog, actually. Could easily be a very big warthog. No, it couldn't. That would be too big. Alrighty, goody. Tristan's communication issues seem to be over, and now we can go back to him and the prince consort.
Indeed we have. It's nice to be able to hear Lou speaking again, and as you can see, we've managed to find in the thickest of thick Tingana. So Tingana is sitting there. You can see with his tick-ridden and bitten ears that it's him. He's an older cat, so the ears have got a few little war wounds, but he has found himself in the thickest bush possible. He's right actually next to one of the main roads, and if you had to drive past here, there is no ways that you would see him. In fact, VM and I, it took us a few minutes to actually get a proper visual and to notice that he was here. So he's tucked himself away, and I'm quite surprised that he's lying here. He's, like I say, on one of the main roads, so it's going to be a busy day for him. He's going to have lots of traffic going up and down. So I was hoping that he would get up and start moving and try and get himself into a quieter area for a rest. But he's looking magnificent. His body condition is great. He's looking really, really good. And I haven't seen him for a while. It's been about 2-3 weeks since I last saw him. But he looks like he's had a decent meal at some point. So his belly is not gaunt in any way. And you can see the structure of his back and his hip area, everything is in really, really good condition. His coat looks magnificent at the moment as well. There's no ticks or any sort of parasites that I can see, so he's looking really, really great. And you can see he's just kind of facing away from us at the moment. There is a breeze that's blowing and it's coming towards us from his direction, so if he sits like that, any sort of wind that's coming from south of him is blowing into his face, so he'll be able to detect if there's any potential prey animals, or if there's any threat that's coming just from the wind direction, and that's maybe why he's faced that way. Also, there was a car that came from the southern side just now, and he kind of turned over to have a look and see what was coming up the road. But his camouflage is absolutely incredible. Given that he's such a big animal, you would think that this leopard would be easy to spot. But we are parked probably no more than 5 meters from him, and we're still getting this broken kind of outline of him. If you had to park 20 meters away, there's no ways you would see even a spot. He would just disappear completely. So his camouflage really works in his favor. And I wonder where he came from, because we drove this area and there weren't really any signs of his tracks. He must have come from the Arathusa side. We're right up against the Arathusa cut line with Djuma. And so he must have been lurking around here. I wonder if he didn't go and pay a visit to Shadow and the cubs and go and see what's going on with her. But he seems to be in full relaxation mode. There's not been too much activity, and I can actually see, it's difficult from this angle that we're at now, but from where I'm sitting you can see his head is just starting to droop slightly, so I wouldn't be surprised he's going to lie down properly. He's kind of moving his head a little bit every now and then, and almost looks as though he's about to flop down like the lions do, so wouldn't be surprised if he goes flat now and has a good nap. But this is the nice thing about this time of the year, with the grass and the growth of the grass and the vegetation becoming so dense, is that he can sit right here and animals will come so close without him even being seen. So he's in a perfect place to stalk if anything came through, and that's why he's probably sitting here, as he knows that he's very well concealed in this. And so should any potential prey animal come past, he's in prime position to sight. So for Tato, I missed your question, unfortunately. The comms are still a little bit breaky, but I don't know if Lou can maybe repeat it for me. So you would like to know whether the leopard mates with the same female over the years. Well, yes, it can happen. Tingana I've seen mating with a number of different females multiple times. So I've seen this particular male mate with Shadow, I can't even remember how many times now, easily 20 times over the last few years. He mated with Salehesh multiple times. He's mated with Karula multiple times. So as long as he's dominant in this area and that female comes into an estrus cycle, he'll mate with her. So you'll find with Karula now, if she starts to push the cubs away in the next few months and he's still dominant, then very likely he will then mate with her again. And we think that he is the father of those cubs. And I would imagine that if she does come into heat, he's definitely going to be one of the first males that covers her and tries to mate with her. So they will mate with the same female for years, as long as they're dominant. As soon as they lose their dominance, then they no longer will mate with that female, because they generally have been pushed out by a stronger male who will get to that female first. And even if he tries with the female and there's a bigger, stronger male, he might get ousted from that mating privilege. So, but this particular male has mated many, many times with all the females that we see. So he's mated with Tundi many times, he's mated with Karula, Shadow, Salahesh, Moya. When Kotile was still alive, he's mated with her, so a number of different females that he's encompassed in his territory. But right now, he seems like he's not interested in anything. He's now tucked his head up, and it looks as though he is fast asleep. And it's pretty incredible that we're really quite close to him, and he's completely not fazed by us. He's hardly turning over to even look at us. Like I say, we're quite close to him, and he's not really stressed about it at all. It's pretty incredible. What is also nice is the size difference between him and the cubs is quite amazing, because I haven't seen him for quite a while, and we've been spending so much time with Karula's cubs, and you kind of get used to their sizes being, the two females, Karula and Shongile, and then Hosana. He's big for his age, but you just realize how much more he's got to grow when you see a big male leopard like this. He is absolutely massive. He's got this huge neck and shoulder area, and it makes me think that Hosana's got a long way to go before he's a big boy like these guys. But isn't that coat magnificent? I was saying earlier, his coat is in great condition. You can see it's all clean, and he looks well groomed this morning, so maybe he had a good grooming session before he decided to lie down. So, Trav, you want to know, is there anything that I can compare the feel of his coat to? Well, Trav, I've never actually touched this particular leopard, so I wouldn't know, but just in general with big cats, their fur is a lot harder than what you think it is. It's not soft like a domestic cat. It almost has a very bristly feel to it. So probably I would say almost like one of those sponges you use to wash dishes, those harder sponges. It's almost got that feel to it. It's very bristly and hard to touch, like a dog that spent a lot of time out in the dust and is rolled around. Their coat becomes a little bit harder and like I say, more bristly, and that's basically what their coat feels like. It's much the same as lions as well. It's not that soft velvety fur that you would think it would be when you see it from here. And he does look particularly good today. You would think that coat would be nice and soft, but it's not. It's, at the end of the day, these animals are not like domestic animals that are being brushed and groomed and they're being washed. They ultimately are out in the rain and the dirt, and so they get a lot of dust on their coat, and that makes the hair get quite hard, and you're also moving through thickets and thorn areas, so they can't have a very long, soft coat, because otherwise all that hair is just going to get caught up everywhere and pulled out. So the shorter, tougher fur is much better. Alright, so while we sit with Tingana and see if he's maybe going to wake up for us and make a move, let's go back to James, who I think has found us a new hyena den.
So what we have here, everybody, is yes, it is a relatively new hyena den, but it isn't in some ways, because it is the old Philemon's dip den. And we found a hyena here, well, Herbert found it. We did have a very brief view, but as Craig raised the camera to her, she ran away. And that's not surprising. We are both 90% sure that whatever hyena that was, there are little ones in that hole. Now, we are highly unlikely to see them on foot. She will know that we're here, and she's highly unlikely to come back here now. She's much more likely to wait until we're gone, and maybe in an hour or so, she'll slowly come back and see that we aren't around. We're not going to go any closer to the den than we are now, because, of course, that will create the sense that the den has been exposed and that there's a predator that knows where the den is, and she would be inclined then to abandon the babies sometimes. Right now, though, if there are babies there, they will have scuttled inside. They'll be sitting on their little shelves at the back of the den, be absolutely safe there. And so I think It'll be worth coming back either in a vehicle sometime later. Maybe Tristan or Jamie would like to come past here on their way home after drive today. But we're going to move away because the chances of the adult coming back here now while we're standing here are pretty much zero. But that's very exciting. I think that is finally a fully active den. So we'll hopefully have some sight of a hyena sometime very soon. So we're going to move off around here. And I must just tell you that there are more ticks around today than I've seen for a very long time. And if you look at my shorts here, they are covered in ticks, all of them migrating in a northerly direction. And it is quite horrifying, and I'm going to have to be very careful. You can see they come off quite easily. But what I will have to do is I'm trying desperately to find a guarri bush so that I can beat them off me. And then I'm going to have a very careful scrub down after this walk. Otherwise my holiday is going to be spent tearing at my skin from the itchy scratches of the ticks. And unfortunately there's a hole here. And it's quite close to what might be described as a sensitive area of my body, and I'm quite hoping that none of them have discovered that hole. Good. On we go. It is quite horrifying. Pepper ticks, and every time I walk past a tall piece of grass, they're back again. We'll just do a little walk around here. We're going to go out onto the road. And there are lots and lots of tracks going to and from this den site. So we're pretty sure that this is now an active den.
It's crossed south into Mala and disappeared. Tundi's not quite on our property. The animals are hiding away from us. I'm too scared to get my hopes up about whether or not James has found the Hyena Den. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I just want to chat on the Game Drive comms very quickly. When this sentence is finished. Sorry, I'm just trying to find out. It sounds as though Tundi might be moving, and I just want to double check and see which way she's going or where she is. I'll get there, I promise. I'm sorry. I'm still listening and just waiting for my turn to talk. There we go. Oh no, okay, sorry. She's not moving towards us, unfortunately. That's all I wanted to just check to see whether or not she was going to come on to Chitwa. But sadly not. It seems as though her territory extends all the way down to south of, well, basically towards the Mala boundary. The good news is that with our increased, this goes without saying, but with our increased traverse of Chitwa, we can spend a lot, fingers crossed, we'll spend a lot more time with Tundi now. She spends most of her time in that area. And we can get to know her cub a little bit better as well. I'm going to go and search for something exciting to show you. In the meantime, Tristan has already found something exciting to show you.
We have, and you can see he's just giving us a little look through the foliage there. So he's just woken up a little bit and is starting to groom. Now, hopefully that will mean that he is going to start thinking about waking up. You can see he's itching, and where he's scratching at the moment is actually a big concentration of ticks. So it's right behind his shoulder blades. Difficult to see now that he's laid down, but on his shoulder blades there, where he can't reach with his tongue, he's got a grouping of ticks that have deposited themselves in amongst that fur, and that's why he's itching so much and trying to use his claws to scratch. And you can see one or two of the ticks there, those big bulging grey balls. Now, those ticks are penetrated in, and those are massive. If you think about the size of a spot on a leopard and you see the size of those ticks there, you can imagine how big they are, and they are absolutely saturated to the brim with blood. So they're having a good feed, and like I say, it's because he actually can't get to that area, so the rest of his coat is in great condition, and there's no ticks anywhere where he can actually get his tongue and get the hooked muscle to be able to hook into those ticks and then pull them out. Also with his claws he can scratch them out, and unfortunately he just can't reach between his shoulder blades. So it's quite common to see that, and at the moment, the summer months, the ticks are incredible. They are everywhere at the moment, and so for him, having ticks between the shoulder blades is just part of summer living. So Holly, yes, leopards will take very long to groom themselves, much like domestic cats. It's a similar sort of thing. They try and keep themselves as clean as possible. So often what you'll find is if this leopard has moved around during the early hours of this morning and has now decided this is where he wants to sleep, he'll then lie down and he'll start the grooming process, and he'll pretty much groom his back legs, along his body, front legs, and try and get rid of all the parasites he's picked up while he's been walking around. Also, he tries to get rid of all the loose fur that's been disrupted while he's been walking, and just generally tries to get that coat into a good condition. You find then that they'll sleep, and once they decide it's time to wake up, they'll go through that whole grooming process again, much like a domestic cat would do. It's the same, a similar kind of thing, and the reason why they do it when they wake up again is because while they've been lying, as I was saying to you, lots of ticks in the grass at the moment, and there'll be fleas and all kinds of things, and they would have been able to crawl onto him while he's been sleeping. And so when he wakes up, he just gets rid of all of those parasites that haven't latched on yet, and keeps that coat in good condition in preparation for when he starts to walk again and does his territorial patrols or hunting or anything like that. So yes, they do groom a lot, and they have to, particularly in the summer months with all these parasites around. If they don't groom, they're going to get into a situation where they're going to end up with far too many parasites, and they're going to then potentially be ill. Too many tick bites can cause a staphylococcus infection in humans, and I'd imagine it would be very similar in animals, that eventually the amount of poison being flushed through, or bacteria flushed through the tick's mouth parts into a leopard, if there was too many of them, would definitely cause him to get quite ill. And the problem with something like a leopard is if it does get ill from, let's say, too many ticks on it, then it starts to get weaker, and when it gets weaker, it then becomes really difficult for it to hunt. So a leopard can't afford to get into that condition, and that's why they groom themselves so much. Now it sounds like there is a car that's coming along, so I wonder if he's not going to wake up again. So, and it was yellow. Would like to know how male leopards establish territory and breeding rights. Well, and what will happen is when this young male leaves his mom, he then becomes nomadic, and he'll then move around and become this nomadic male for a few years until he gets bulky and strong. Once he's bulky and strong, he will then start looking for an area where he sees an older male, or perhaps there's no male that's actively patrolling that area, and he'll then start to scent mark. And what he does is he scent marks and he vocalizes in a way to tell other leopards that this is my area now, this is where I'm deciding to set up and where I'm going to make my home. And so what he's trying to do is use a chemical and an audio display so that he actually doesn't have to fight, because that's a last resort for them. They don't want to fight with one another because they can risk serious injury, so they would rather call and leave these chemical scents. And what they do is they then go around and they push as far as they can until they meet resistance from another male that is of similar size and age, and that will be able to keep them at bay. And that's how the territory is then set up. And then with mating, you'll find a situation with mating that there will be females that will be within his territory, and generally males will have slightly larger territories than females, and so they will try and encompass a as many females as possible, and you'll find that even some females will travel out of their territory into a neighboring male's territory just to be able to mate with them. And so that's how they get their mating rights. And generally then what will happen is once the mating commences, the female and the male mating make a lot of noise, and if there's any other males in that area, they will hear that and they'll come in, and then there'll be this territorial dispute, and it will then end up with the case of the strongest, fittest male will take over, and he'll be the one that will mate and is normally the successful mate for that female. Now, he's gotten a little bit upset because a car came barreling down the road. Like I say, we're on a main road, and I think it disturbed him a little bit, so that's why he's got his head up and he's looking over his shoulder now. So what we're going to do is just sit quietly and not make too much noise. So Rachel, you're asking about these ticks, and you want to know if these are the pepper ticks that have been plaguing Steph and myself and Jamie and James and Brent, who've been on the bushwalks, and whether or not that's them and that they've latched on and now become huge. Well, it is basically that. Pepper ticks are a certain species of ticks, and it's the larval phase of the tick. So it's when it's first developed, and then from there it will start to grow and get bigger. And depending on the species, it will either go through a 1-stage, 2-stage, or 3-stage life cycle. If it's a 3-stage life cycle, like these bond ticks that we see on this leopard, then it will have already dropped off another host twice before getting onto Tingana. So they will already be quite big when they get onto him, and then they're going to feed massively and swell out. And now, if you take that tick off for a while, you'll find that... Sorry guys, just got to get through this little monkey orange thicket. And isn't that spectacular? A bit of patience has paid off for us. He's now going to amble down the road. So yeah, I mean, these bond ticks are quite big already when they latch onto him. Isn't that spectacular? Oh, serious itch on that dewlap. And like I was saying, you can see he's in great condition, and his belly is swinging. That is my favorite sound. I just love it. So what he's doing there, and that goes back to our territorial discussion, is that he's voicing that this is my area, this is where I'm dominant, and don't come anywhere near here if you're another male. And he might even be just doing that to us to show us that this is his territory, and that he's saying, this is my area, you know, I've been sleeping, but this is me calling and making a show for you. And you'll see that he'll probably go and he'll mark his territory as we go. So any sort of landmark that we come across, like a tree that's overhanging the road, you'll find he'll go up there and he'll push his face into the tree and use his scent glands to mark there, and then lift his tail and spray this urine. But isn't that the most beautiful sight? This large cat just ambling down the road in front of us without a care in the world. So when he starts to vocalize like that, it means that he's not in a full-on hunt. It's not to say that he won't hunt. If something came across the road, then he could potentially start stalking. But generally, it's a situation where he's not looking to hunt at all. He's just doing a territorial patrol. Sorry, I must apologize. We're driving on a road that's got a very corrugated effect to it. So because it's a main road, there's a lot of delivery trucks that drive on here, and so they cause the road to get these little bumps. And so when we're driving, it causes the camera to bounce a little bit, unfortunately. So I'm trying to avoid them as best I can. Is that a bit better, Vim? There we go. So it looks like he's going to potentially cross into Djuma. Let's have a look. But you see there's that tree that's on the edge of the road. So he's going to go up to it. He's rubbing his face a little bit, lifts the tail, and sprays. Now, when we go past that, we are going to get the most incredible smell that's going to come. It's going to smell like that buttery popcorn that you get when you go to the movies, and it's really quite pleasant. You wouldn't think the urine of a cat would be very nice, but with leopards it smells like buttery popcorn, and it's really quite something. And so you can often, when you're tracking them, know how fresh their scent or how fresh the tracks are when you come across a scent marking, and if you can still smell that popcorny smell, then you know it's been fairly recent. So Cody, leopards, I suppose in a way they do compete with other predators. They're not in direct competition in that they'll both be hunting the exact same animal at the same time. It has happened, but they are in competition for food and for safety and for safe havens for their cubs, and so that's why there's a lot of sort of fighting in amongst them. So if, let's say, a lion came out now, that lion would try and chase this leopard, and the reason why is not because it's hunting it for food, is that it knows that this male leopard could potentially be very dangerous to the offspring of that lion. So it knows that the male leopard is more than capable of killing its offspring. Also, it's going to be eating meat from this area that lion could potentially use, and so in that regard, yes, they compete with one another, but they're not direct competitors like, let's say, one pride of lions and another pride of lions, or another male leopard to this male. They're not competing for mating rights and territory, but they are competing for food items and then just for safety of their cubs. So he's putting his head in the bush, rubbing that gland on his face and spraying again. Spectacular. Absolutely amazing. He is such a big boy. He's got the most dopey face in the world. He always looks like he's half asleep, but he is absolutely spectacular. So there are some of the commercial vehicles that are joining us. It's in an area where there's a few commercial cars, so we're going to let them come and have a little look quickly, and while we do that, we're going to go back to James and see what update he's got for us. Morning.
We came through the drainage line here, and Herbert said to me, let's go and find a foam nest frog, and I thought he was joking. And we came along to the tree, we looked around in it because he's seen a foam nest frog around this tree before, and we couldn't find it. And then I played it the sound of the foam nest frog, and I'll do it again. And we managed to convince this thing to call, and that's how we spotted it. Now that's coming off my frog app, the sound you can hear now. Now let's see if he doesn't call back. I think he knows he's been spotted, so he's not calling anymore. How cool is that? He's the most perfect colour for this tamboti tree that he's living in. Right over the top of a pond. I don't know if he's male or female, and I've seen their nests around here before, but I think it's almost impossible to tell if they're male or female unless there are actually 2 or 3 of them. What have you got there, Herbie? Herbert has spotted a nest of a foam nest frog. He's pointing frantically. I can't see what he's talking about. Through here, Herb? On the tamboti? Above the water. Which water? Oh, right here, you mean? Have you got it there, Craig? Herbert is now he's rolling on the floor. He thinks I'm such an idiot. I don't blame him. Let me come round to your side of the tree, everyone. Pointing frantically. No, over here. There we go. That's marvellous. That looks to me like it's probably already hatched. And what I'll do is I'll step on this rather unwieldy looking log. Craig, if I go in, you're hatched. And what I'll do is I'll step on this rather unwieldy looking log. Craig, if I go in, you're
Oh, sorry about that, everybody. It seems as though... I'm not sure if he vanished. I think Bushwalk vanished. James disappeared off your screens. So we are back once again, racing back towards Djuma. I've decided I'm going to have faith in James's that this is a Hyena Den. I'm going to have faith and I'm going to go and check. Because it feels as though we've dedicated 3 weeks of searching for these hyenas and they've just kept us the slip. Whoa. Goodness. Which is quite fast. That was very fast. I'm glad I didn't go swinging around the corner without looking. Can you imagine? Traffic accident. I'm just waiting for the dust to settle. Okay. That was quite a very rapid departure. I wonder if anyone's ever done that. I suppose it must have happened at some point. You don't really think about it when you're driving along these roads. You don't, it's not like we use our indicators. I'm not even sure that cars have indicators. I'm not sure. Either way, you don't think about it. I suppose we're going so slowly most of the time. That would be something that you would be mocked for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, I can't race to Djuma through the Gremlin Hollow. Oh, good. Good news. Tristan's back up and running. Let's go join him in Tingana and I'll get through Gremlin Dip.
So we are back and up and running and able to hear what's going on again. And Tingana is just cut off now. He was walking straight down the road and now he's just gone into this little thicket. So I'm just trying to find him again. But he shouldn't have gone too far. Maybe he's gone to go and find himself a nice place to lie down again like he did just now. It's quite dense in here, so it's the perfect place for a leopard to get in and hide, exactly like what he was doing earlier. So I'm just trying to sneak in here just to see. But I don't see any sign of him. Vim, you see anything? Is he on the other side of that marula? Okay. There we go. Sorry, I just got to try and back up a little bit to try to see if we can get through here. So Viam's just saying that he was on the other side of this marula. Now, it's just a bit dense in here and there's lots of fallen over trees that we've got to be a bit careful of. We're also in an area where there's a few types of trees called zebra woods. Now, zebra wood is a very dense, in fact, it's the densest wood we get out here, and they go through your tires like a hot knife through butter. So you have to be a bit careful when the zebra woods are around. Sorry, VM, just be careful on the left there. I think there he is. I'm just trying to see. I thought I saw him around the bush there. So I'm just going to have to try and get through. Sorry, VM. We've just got a big stump here. So VM and I are trying to dodge trees in every direction here. We'll try and get through. I thought I saw him walking down towards us here. So I'm just trying to get us through this little thicket. It's the nice thing about having Wendy is she's very short and so very easy to get her through these small little hard to reach places. When you drive the big Land Cruisers, it's a lot more difficult. So we're just going to try and sneak in here, and then we should be able to find him. So I think he's coming back towards the road by the looks of it, which is typical of him. Yeah, I can hear you now, Lou, but it's very broken. Alright, so we're going to go back to James just so we can try and figure out our comms at this stage and see if we can find Tingana again.
Someone has found a very nice resting place. Is that not the most perfect bush tree? Now imagine bringing yourself a book, something nice to drink, and coming along here and whiling away a slow African afternoon sitting on this marula tree. I'm going to have to try it out for myself. I'm sorry that we crash cut over there. I'm not sure what's going on with the pack. It is due now for a severe overhaul. We've got new batteries for it. I think there's a new encoder, whatever that means. And oh, that is just delightful. I might spend my leave sitting right here, actually. I might have to do a bit of modification of the silver cluster leaf because it's a bit in my face, really. I might have to have at it with a matchet for a little while, and then this will be a good place to sit and contemplate life, watch the sun go down, watch elephants come walking past, see if Karula perhaps uses an old path of hers. Yes, very good. Remember this little spot. Isn't that cool? And if you come over here, Craig, I think you'll find that a leopard has used this a few times. You can see, or maybe a lion coming past. That's normally what happens to a marula tree when a leopard or lion sticks a claw in and tries to climb it. And these sort of the bits of bark come crashing off. There's another one up here, crashing off. Gets sort of, what's the word I'm searching desperately for? Just get chipped off. And then they'll go and sit in the top. Or if you're a Hosanna and Shongile, you might just be playing in there. Then, here, this is what I was talking about earlier. I think you'll find that this is a squirrel's nest. There might be a snake in there. Herbert says if you play music, a snake will come out and dance to it. I think that might not be true. But there is a marula nut, and I suspect that a squirrel or two have made a pantry in here at some stage. It's not a very clever place for squirrels, too low down. They could easily be caught by, well, I suppose ground-based predators. Now, Tim, you ask obviously the best question that there could be asked about a tree like this, and that's how did it get its bend? Well, it got its bend as a result of elephants, almost certainly. And I suspect what happened sometime in the prehistory of this tree's life, and whatever trauma took this limb off or took this main trunk off, created a situation where the main trunk was bent over, and I wonder if this wasn't a secondary branch that then turned up and became the main trunk. A marula tree is extremely good at growing towards the light. They have to have sunlight, and they're totally intolerant of shade, so they have to have full sunlight. And whatever trauma caused this thing to be broken off some time back probably bent the tree over, and it was probably at that angle for a little while, and then what would have happened is that this thing started to grow up towards the light, because of course they don't like to grow horizontally. But it would have come as a result of some form of elephant damage, probably a number of times. But it is quite perfect, isn't it? It's wonderful. Good. Well, we've managed to get through that segment without a crash cut. That's good news. You can see I'm beating off the ticks as we go. See what else we can find up here. I know Jamie's on her way back from CP or Cheetah Plains. I'm not sure if she's going to perhaps have time to pop in at the den site, but I think that is the route that she will take on the way, which will be quite nice. I think this would be a perfect time to go in there in a car. It should have been enough time for the hyena to settle and perhaps go back and realize that we're not around and that there is no further threat to her little cubs, if she does indeed have cubs. Now, I saw something leaping through here. Here we go. There is a fly, and it looks almost like a tsetse fly, but it is not a tsetse fly because we do not have the tsetse fly here anymore. And I wonder if that is not a tick-eating fly. Why else would it be sat on the top of a grass stalk like this. I wonder how many flies eat ticks. It might be the one redeeming feature of the fly. They might in fact be eaters of ticks, some of them. So that's what I think perhaps that is, but I really couldn't tell you. There are so many invertebrates, and it's always, I find at the end of winter you feel like you're quite a genius, because you can explain everything that you find, because there are probably 3 or 4 different kinds of insects that you commonly find, 2 flowers, 1 or 2 grass species, and so you basically can describe everything you find. Then the rain comes, and it puts flowers and insects and all sorts of things all over the place, and suddenly you realize what a truly gormless and clueless cretin you actually are, and it's real distressing, really. Let's head across to somebody who's not distressed at all, because he's with an animal about whom he knows a great deal.
Back, we managed to relocate on Tingana. He's tucked himself into a thicket where it's almost not possible to see him anymore. So he's just in that grass there. You can see it's just a blur of spots in amongst the green. So unfortunately he's found himself a new place to lie down and is very happy in that thicket now. And like I say, it is impossible to see him. 3 vehicles drove past him without seeing him at all, and luckily Wiem, with his eagle eyes on the back, managed to see this cat and spot it for us. And you can see he's gone fast asleep again. So I think, in all likelihood, because of the comms issues that we're having and the fact that this cat has gone completely to sleep and is in a very difficult place to see him, I think we're going to leave him there and carry on. But it was really great to catch up with Tingana this morning. It was nice to have him coming out and sawing for us. It was quite special. So I think that's where we're going to leave him and let him have some peace and quiet. And look at that, you can see it's quite a difficult area. Alright, so we're going to go back to Jamie with her elephants. I believe she's got a nice group of elephants.
Roadblock once again. I guess today we're just destined to spend as much possible time with elephants as we can. And what a lovely massive herd is actually coming out of Little Gowrie through the river system, through the Mulwati river system, and onto Djuma. There must be, how many elephants would you guess, Brian? 30?
Yeah, at least.
At least 30 that we've just watched walk past, and I've given them plenty of space because there are already 2 vehicles with them, and I didn't want to pressure them any, in terms of blocking their path. But we'll just wait patiently so we can come through, and then I think we'll spend the rest of the morning with this beautiful herd. Oh, look, kingfisher. That's very cool. That is very, very pretty. Something very small and something very large. You're gonna have to fly. Oh, no you're not. You're not even bothered. Elephant? What elephant? I didn't see an elephant. There it goes. Alright, let's catch up with them now that we've got some space. Oh, we might have to, bear with me, we might have to go through this dip quite quickly, just so that we don't lose signal, although I don't really want to race into an elephant either. That would not be ideal. Oh, this is going to be stunning. How's our signal in here, Lou? Is it a bit shaky? Oh, good. Okay, because this is very cool. That is absolutely lovely. Oh, marvelous. That is really, really stunning. Put this together. These systems have really nice vegetation for the elephants to eat, and the grass tends to be very green and deliciously full. I think probably this though. What I'll try and do is I'll cut a clip of them so we can watch them coming towards us. That's what we'll do. Have another magnificent sighting. Brian and I once had a sighting after drive where, let's go through here quickly. How's it, Andrew? Brian and I once had the most amazing sighting. We were on our way home And I think probably about 50 elephants came walking down the road towards us. Babies, mothers, teenagers, parted like waves around us, and we just sat completely still, and it was utterly gorgeous. We had them feeding next to us. Remember that, Brian? It was so nice. I wouldn't mind a sighting like that again. Let's go and see if we can achieve that goal. And it very seldom happens intentionally. In fact, you can't create that scenario. The elephants just have to do it themselves. Sitting on the top of that dead branch. Sorry, distraction from the elephants. There we go. Here's our pin-tailed Waydah. The last time I saw one, I think it was Jeandre had to try and get it. So there we go. That's a nice one for your bird lists, everybody. For those of you that are new to our live safaris, we always encourage our viewers to keep a bird list of the different birds that we see. And this is one that we don't often see.
Oh, a new one for me.
Is it a new one for you, Bebop? Oh, cool. There we go. Brian can add it to his bird list. That's lovely. I'm going to sneak around and go and have a look at the elephants. But while we do that, let's go across to James for an update as to how his walk is going.
Sneaking in a vehicle is not something that's possible, so I'm glad that Jamie thinks she's going to be sneaking anywhere, but I take her sentiment, and yes, I've tried to sneak in those Land Rovers. It's not possible. Here we have a group of harvester termites, and they're out only now because there is no sun today. Otherwise, they would all be inside the mound waiting for nightfall. Now, their mound is somewhere underneath this road. And just to give you an idea, I mean, of the strength of their building, they live underneath a road. And cars, very heavy ones, drive up and down over this road on a daily basis. And yet here they are. And they've managed to create a home underneath the road. And somehow their tunnels managed to sustain the mass of the cars that drive over here, which I think is fantastic. Here, I think, is what we might term a major worker. So it's a worker that is quite large. Here, I think, is a minor worker. But I don't know that any of them are soldiers. Let me just see if I can prevail on one to bite me. This one's got some mouth parts, but they don't seem to be great defense. So I'm not sure what's going on. I think some just get bigger pieces of bush than others. Here's one that is bringing home... I was just trying to help it. It was carrying that stick. Pick it up and put it next to its stick and see if it'll carry it back again. There it is. Come, little one. Here's your stick. There you are. No, I've totally thrown it out. I've tried to help, but it was carrying a stick about 3 times its size. Come on, come back. There we are. There you are. No, you just walked over it, you idiot. Come back. No. See, that's what happens when we interfere in nature. It all starts to look rather ridiculous. Animals are unable to cope when we interfere. It's almost 99% of the time, and certainly it was brought home to me during the course of the 8-week TV shows. I tried to maintain the lives of our tadpoles, which stopped growing entirely. I tried to keep the caterpillars. They too stopped growing until I released them again. I tried to move some Waltheria plants, plant them, give them water and tend to them. They all died immediately. So it really is not very easy to have an effect here. And I mean, in all seriousness, that if that's happening on a microscopic level, imagine the effect that it must be having macroscopically when we build things like giant dams all over the place, when we put fences around areas, when we stop the movement of animals, when we tinker with the species. We think, oh, well, there are too many elephants there, we should take some out, or there are too many lions, we should take some out. I think we have so many effects on the ecosystem here and the delicate dynamic equilibrium that maintains a system like this, that we really don't have any idea. So when people say, well, what do you think this place looked like? What do you think it was like before human beings? I don't believe that we have any idea, because for as long as we've been in this area, and that has been, well, I mean, there have been people here on and off for the last 1,000 years or so, but we've had an intensive effect on this area for the last 150 or so, and I think because of that, it's almost impossible to know what this place would look like before the advent of humanity around here, and the advent of our fences and our villages and that sort of thing. Right, Tristan, I don't know if he's still with that cat. I don't know if he's heading home for breakfast. We're certainly on our way home for breakfast. Perhaps he is too, but he'll tell you about that now.
Well, James, I think breakfast is a fine idea. We have indeed left Tingana. He was curled up in a tight ball in horrible bush where there was very little of him visible. So we thought we'd leave him to sleep. He gave us a nice show after all by coming out and sawing and moving around for a little bit. So we decided we'd just leave him there. And I'm sure at some stage today he's going to cross into Djuma. He's right on the boundary. So for this afternoon it would be really good to go and follow up in that area, and hopefully we'll be able to find him this afternoon. I'm sure he's going to carry on his scent marking patrol. He was marked the whole way down when he was walking, so pretty sure that he's going to carry on with that this evening, so it'll be good. Maybe we get him vocalizing and sawing again. So in the meantime, we've come to Treehouse Pan just to see if there's any sign of Karula sneaking around here while we've been busy with Tingana. And so far, nothing. Just lots of tracks of hyenas going back and forth from this area. I'm not quite sure where James had that hyena den or potential hyena den. Be interesting to know. Philemon's cutline den. Okay, that makes sense because that's not too far from where we are, and the tracks tend to go in that direction, so it would be... I'm pretty sure that they are going to set up soon, and we're going to hopefully have little ones, which will be great. Alright, while we carry on and see what else we can find, let's go back to Jamie and her elephants.
How does one lose 30 big grey things? The answer is relatively easily with elephants. I haven't lost them, I know where they are, but they're proving to be somewhat unpredictable, and they've stuck in some very dense vegetation, so I'm going to try and reposition so we can see at least one of them. It's a big old female on my left, but she keeps ducking behind the bushes. No, it didn't go according to plan. I thought they were going to walk up the Mulwati. They decided absolutely not. Hey girl. There she is, happily and contentedly feeding. There were 30 elephants, I can now only see one. How ridiculous is that? Oh, there, I can see two. So at this time of year, even an elephant can disappear with relative ease, which means you've got to be extra especially careful when you're walking, especially because elephants sometimes sleep very soundly. Look at that trunk sticking up there. Can you see it there, Brian? It's just the tip poking out above the tree line. But yes, sometimes they sleep very soundly, and I've done it before where I've walked straight into a sleeping elephant, and we both got a serious surprise, and we luckily both went in opposite directions, and he didn't come chasing after me. But they do love to sleep. Even the adult bulls will sleep very deeply, not as often as the little ones, but very, very deeply. Okay, let's try this again. Oh, there you go. 11-year-old Elizabeth. That answers your question. You wanted to know about elephants sleeping. The babies can sleep for hours a day. So what will happen is the whole herd will stop, and the those babies will lie down and go to sleep, and the whole herd will stand there and protect them. Sometimes, in places where it's very open, the females will actually just stand and provide the babies with shade while they sleep. It's amazing to watch that. And then the adults don't sleep as often. Believe it or not, Elizabeth, adult elephants can actually lie down. Here goes the trunk again. Adult elephants can lie completely flat on their sides. They don't often do it, but they can. Generally, though, they'll sleep standing up or they will lean against a tree. But like all mammals, obviously, the younger you are, the more sleep you need, except for that minor blip when you're at university. But the younger you are, the more sleep you need and the more growing that you're doing. So the same applies for elephants. So whilst a baby elephant might sleep for hours in a day, an adult elephant will probably only sleep for maybe an hour at the most. Okay, Ryan, this hasn't gone according to plan at all. No. Let's try going round onto the dam wall. Maybe we'll have a better view from there. There's an uncanny thing happening with the questions today. It's really bizarre. It's stuff that we talked about. There's so many times and I have just been chatting off air and we've discussed the topic and all of a sudden it's come up in a question. Corey, you want to know what happens when large elephant herds meet? The answer is nothing serious. It's actually really special to watch, particularly because a lot of the time I think they know each other like neighbors know each other. And it's fascinating because the herds will come together. They're not territorial. Elephants are not territorial at all. They'll come up to each other. The adults will wrap their trunks over the adults' head, meet face to face, and then they touch the tip of their trunk to the temporal gland and then put the trunk in their mouths so they can really get a scent of that particular individual. And I've seen it, and I've been with Brian before, I think, when we've seen this, where you watch two herds meet and the young ones go running towards each other with great excitement, like their friends have just come. It's really very, very touching to watch two elephant herds meet. I remember once sitting over the Crocodile River, watching probably about 100 elephants approach each other from each direction. And when they started rumbling to each other, when they could see each other, they sprinted. I mean, really sprinted at each other. And there was just chaos as all of these two herds sort of merged with each other and wrapped their trunks around. There was playing and trumpeting and all sorts of things. I'm sorry, these elephants have really gone into an impossible spot. They just haven't done exactly what I thought they would. No. David, you want to know how far other elephants can hear other elephants? Not quite as far as some people have predicted or suggested or theorized. It's never been proved that they can actually communicate over hundreds and hundreds of kilometers. As far as I know, there's a lot of theories that suggest it, but there's no actual concrete proof. But they can definitely easily hear each other over 20 kilometers, say. Now they can hear far, far further than we can, and of course also known to communicate in rumbles that are much lower than our human hearing. So potentially as low as 5 hertz, the sound that they produce, the rumbles that they produce. And those will travel much, much further because it's so low, so the sound waves are long. And they'll travel further and they'll go through the ground and allow the elephants to communicate. Though they can communicate over vast, considerable distance. As to whether or not it is as extreme as some people suggest, remains to be proved. Alrighty, it sounds as though Tristan has made his way towards that hyena den. Let's go and find out what's happening there.
So we have indeed, there's no activity that we can see at the moment. I haven't seen any sign of a hyena lying anywhere near here. Maybe when James came earlier, got a bit of a fright and moved off a little bit, and will come back a little bit later in the day. But it does look like there has some very visible signs of hyena lying and spending lots of time there. The opening to the hole is, you can see, worn, and pretty much where hyenas spent a lot of time. And the tracks here are just up and down, so not even the tracks that James saw when we came in on a different route, and there's just tracks everywhere, so I wouldn't be surprised that this is where they are. Be interesting to know which hyena was here. I wonder if maybe Gwen has not just moved from Cheetah Cutline with that warthog in that den and just come and lay up here. But there's definite, you can see on the entrance there how smooth it's become, and that's from repeated use. So that's from an animal lying there over and over and over again. That smoothed it all out. And we're listening out. I haven't heard any sounds of little hyenas making any noise inside there, so I don't think there's any little ones at the moment. But if they were here and the mom is not here, then we wouldn't see too much of them, because these would be really small if there is a new mother here. So it's a good place to come and check. At least there's signs of activity, and it certainly seems like they are looking for a den, so it's very positive. So I'm quite glad that James stumbled upon it. What we're going to do is we're just going to do a little loop around. I just want to see if we take the track round. Maybe this hyena is lying somewhere in the grass here. It's quite difficult to see in this long grass, as we saw with Tingana, so it's very possible that this hyena might be lying in plain sight. But it's so exciting to have all these hyenas back again. So, Marianne, that's a very interesting question. You're wondering whether hyenas teach their young to hunt like lion and leopard do. Well, they do, because at the end of the day, hyenas will hunt in clans, and so what happens is as the adults go and hunt and the little ones are following in when they're about a year old, so they watch what's going on and they see how the hyenas harass other predators to be able to steal as well as to chase down animals of their own. So they do get taught. It's not only the mother though, they'll get taught by the whole clan as they watch the clan move around and do their thing. So any young animal has to learn from the parents at some stage, and that's where they'll get it from. There'll also be a little bit of instinct that they'll have in terms of they'll know that they've got to chase certain things, but they'll refine their technique with the adults. Just careful, Viam. There's a sharp thorny tree on the right, and we're good. So we've negotiated that. Now, no sign of the hyena anywhere around the den there, so we'll have to come back this afternoon. I imagine around sunset would be a great time to come back here to check again. And the road that I was talking about with all the tracks is this one. There's just tracks back and forth, so I'm pretty sure that we will have some success if we come here this evening, or maybe tomorrow morning, depending on what goes on. But while we were sitting at the Hyena Den, I did have audio for some baboons, so we heard baboons calling and making a bit of a racket. They didn't sound like they were too far away, so I'm hoping that they'll be close by. Just careful there. Okay, so while we investigate the noise of these baboons, let's go back to James so he can say his goodbyes.
Goodbye. Obviously not just yet. Come, we're just doing a last little walk in the bush in front of the camp. And one of the things I haven't seen for some time, just watch out here, Craig, if you get caught here, you'll never leave, is a scale insect, or the coccylids, I think they're called. And they live on these trees, and I haven't seen a scale insect for some time. They produce a very sweet exudation that is then tended by aphids, and the aphids, and in fact it's tended also, they're milked by ants. I forget exactly how it works, but they look like these sort of, they look like little pieces of sherbet sitting on these ziziphus, or buffalo thorn trees. But I'm afraid I don't see any on here. So let's do one last walk this way, in the last minute of our show, in the last minute of this current work cycle for me. I was hoping to find you one last piece of biology before we shut down, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that unless I can find a tick. No, don't seem to have any ticks. Right, that's going to be it for the drive this morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your chat, your comments, your questions. Always useful, especially on a slightly quiet drive like this. I hope Tristan will find that hyena this afternoon with some babies, perhaps. Craig, a warm welcome back to you and your now healed root canal tooth. And a big thanks, of course, to Tristan and Jamie for coming out today. We will see you later this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Well, I won't. Until then, stay safe and happy, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.